Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Media. I'm your host Max Kellerhalls, and it's going to be another solo review today because no one wanted to see this film with me, and yeah, maybe for a good reason. Today we're going to be talking about Madam Web, the latest attempt from Sony at trying to set up their own Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man. I don't know how, but they keep trying. First it was Venom, then it was Morbius. Now it's Madam Web. And yeah, you could tell by the tone of my voice that I really didn't like this film. I'm just gonna say it right off the top. If you want like a basic plot summary, it kind of just goes like this,
I can see the future!
and that's that. I guess I could talk about some of the things I did enjoy first. One of the things is I like the actresses who play all the main characters: Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, and Isabel Merced. They did well with the material that they were handed. I just we'll get into the material in question in a bit, but um, I like the way that Dakota Johnson played Madam Web in that like she's a little socially inept in that like she doesn't really give a shit about other people even though she's a fucking paramedic, which I all right. That didn't make any sense, but still, I thought it was a funny like twist on things. That she was just this person like, I don't want any of this. I don't want to deal with any of this. Why is this happening to me? Like, I don't get it. I do not care. I just want to go home and be by myself. I know a lot of people like that, and I just found it funny that this was our main character. But there are moments that are like, oh, poor Dakota, you are really trying. I also thought Dakota Johnson had pretty good chemistry with Adam Scott. I thought they were a little dynamic. The few and fleeting moments in this film that we get to see them, I thought they had a really good back and forth as like friends and coworkers. I thought that was pretty funny. Like Adam Scott is always awesome, so it's good to see him in something. Good to see him in, well, not this, but it's good to see him. And one other thing is like if they were to connect this to the MCU, please don't. But if they were, I think Adam Scott would make a good Uncle Ben for the Tom Holland Peter Parker because I could kind of see this Uncle Ben getting together with a girl that like the Aunt May from those movies. I think that's a cool detail. Like you could kind of connect this to the MCU if you really tried, but don't try it too hard because it's not. I just thought if Adam Scott were to carry on as Uncle Ben, I think he would be pretty good as the MCU Uncle Ben. Yeah, I also like that in a big budget superhero movie, they're giving kudos and acknowledgement to first responders like paramedics, firefighters. I think that's really cool. I think my problem is even though they're giving them attention, they make them all look like assholes, which I was like, what? Hold on. You're having your cake and eating it here too. Like it shows like the paramedics do not care about the people they're trying to save, which is really odd. Like why they I just I don't get it. Like it felt weird. That is the least of my problems in this movie. That's it for positives. Maybe okay, maybe one thing I kind of like, but it's not really that impressive when you really think about it, or at least the way it's done in this film. I like the idea of a like someone with spider powers running around trying to kill these girls. I think that's a really cool horror movie concept, but the way it's done in this film, yeah, we'll get into that. And yeah, like every positive I could say is just like quickly overturned by something that's like, well, I like this until they did this, or I like this, but they did this. And yeah, God, where do I start? Dialogue in this film is god awful. It is from the writers of Morbius, and we'll get into that later because there's a weird, interesting controversy regarding film criticism going out right now. But yeah, this dialogue is so expository, awkward line readings, not that funny. You can either tell that they just did not care and just wanted to make something that's going to be a quick cash grab, or it was cut up to hell during the post production process. Yeah, like, oh my god, it is bad. And sometimes I don't mind cheesy dialogue if it's done in the right way, but this is not that. Like, it is just dialogue dumbed down to the lowest possible IQ. But for a movie like this, no one would want to see that. Like, this doesn't have anything going for it. Like, if you were going to make a 4-quarter marketable movie, why the hell do you choose Madam Web? She is quite possibly the least interesting Spider-Man character that you could choose from. Like, the only thing that's interesting about her is the fact that she has other people do shit for her. I do appreciate that, like, they kind of kept the overall thing of, like, she's kind of an asshole from the comics, but still, like, why Madam Web? It's so baffling to me that they made this movie. Like, if you're going to introduce Madam Web in a Spider-Man movie or a Spider-Verse movie for that matter. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I guess maybe I then haven't read that many Madam Web comics, but I know enough about the character to be like, she doesn't really have that many villains, and she doesn't really do much action. Most action she does is move her hand. Or not even that, she can't move her hand because she's fucking paralyzed in the comics. So I don't get it. Speaking of, like, villains and stuff, the villain in this film is horrible. Oh, it is so bad. I feel bad for the actor because they ADR'd all of his dialogue. Bro, there's literally moments where you could see his mouth is not moving, or his lips are clearly saying something that are not the thing that are being said out loud. And it's baffling to me. Like, I didn't see this on the biggest screen imaginable, but I saw this on a big screen and I noticed it. And I was just like, oh my God, that is horrible. It's worse than most, like, 70s Hong Kong movies. At least then, it's like a language barrier. This is English to English! Come on! Oh man. Like, also, like, when I was talking about earlier, like, the guy with the spider powers and stuff like that, it's interesting on paper, but in the movie, like, he has no webs. So, one of the entire cool things about Spider-Man, like slinging webs and swinging throughout the city, it's just gone. So it's just a guy jumping around. He has more in common with a frog than he does a spider. Oh God. And, like, his plan, oh my God. Okay. I'm just gonna go into spoilers because you're not gonna see this movie. I highly don't watch this in theaters. Send a message to Sony that we do not want this. This is not what we want. We want better quality stuff. Like, do more Spider-Verse stuff. That the people that are literally down the hall. Like, one of the things that just baffles my mind that they just were like, oh yeah, that's okay. We can move that into the final product. The main bad guy, his whole deal is that he has these nightmares every night. These 3 spider girls just come in, beat the shit out of him, and then throw him out a window, and that's his death. So he's like, okay, I gotta change my fate here. So this is what I'm gonna do. Sleeps with someone from the NSA. Oh yeah, because this film takes place in 2003, so NSA is kind of a big deal. Gets, like, secretive NSA cameras and technology to see anyone throughout New York. And the way he finds these girls is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. He he remembers the details on these girls' faces so much that he could recreate them on a computer in 2003. Keep in mind, these girls have masks on. You cannot tell who they are. They're not very concealing masks, but still, you cannot tell. Then again, it gets worse. He uses AI to digitally de-age these girls, and it works. Like, it's a perfect replica of, like, what these actresses look like and what these characters look like. It is insane that they were like, yeah, it's okay. We could get away with that. Like, that's fine. The audience won't really care. They don't pay attention to that stuff like that. Oh my God, like, seriously. I also feel like the film fundamentally does not understand anything about Spider-Man. Like, the idea that anyone could be Spider-Man. By making the spiders in this movie magical spiders, it's not more realistic than a radioactive spider, but still, like, it kind of takes away the special nature of what, like, just a random kid gets bitten by a spider. No, in this movie, it's like, oh, fate has a plan, and Peter Parker's always supposed to do this, or these girls are always destined to become spider people. It's not just random. Like, that bothers me. Like, I think the idea of exploring the spider sense that we've all come to know and love throughout all the movies and stuff, and TVs and video games, like, and then going into the idea of, like, okay, the spider sense already has like this future like seeing power a little bit, but going into that and like really seeing how far you can push it, that's interesting. I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. Just not how they do it in this. I feel like the film wants to be Spider-Man meets Doctor Strange. Oh wait, we already did that. I just don't get it. Like, why are the Parkers in this film in the first place? Like, I like Adam Scott, but why are the Parkers here? They do not belong here. They don't add anything really. Like, they feel like they're only there to be like, hey nerds, don't you get it? That's Peter Parker, but we're not gonna say it. Oh, he's talking about Aunt May, but we're not gonna say it. Like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's weirdly enough, if Uncle Ben doesn't die, he's kind of useless in most stories. So I was like, it's canon events. Come on, like Miguel, come in here, fix this shit. This is probably the dumbest thing in the film. So a big part of this film is that Madame Web is on the run because the police think that she kidnapped 3 girls, when in reality she's protecting 3 girls from this a Spider-Man that can't swing webs, so he's pretty much useless. She first she gets him away, puts him in the woods, leaves him there to go figure out some other stuff. They almost get killed, comes back and saves them. She then leaves him again with Uncle Ben of all people. Then, on top of that, so tell me how she manages to book a flight to Peru. She goes to Peru, finds out the true origin of her mom and all that other weird shit that happens in this film, and then comes back in like the span of like 3 days. Keep in mind, remember how I said this is in 2003? How the fuck in New York could she book a flight knowing she's a wanted criminal? Especially after they're tracking down on a lot of that shit. And they already acknowledged that the NSA is a big part of this film. It makes no sense. And it's just a weird thing that the plot just kind of dives into, just so we can have like these really weird spider tribe looking people. Like, it is bizarre what these people look like. Because they're people painted in red. They're people painted in red and have twigs all over them to kind of look like a Spider-Man in that pattern. But not really. And, oh yeah, the funniest thing, and a lot of people have been talking about this, is that the end of the film takes place in a firework factory. But I don't know why, in that case, there's a Pepsi-Cola sign on top. And the bad guy gets crushed to death by the P in a Pepsi-Cola sign. Or an S. I forgot. He gets crushed to death by Pepsi, pretty much. Then our main character falls in the water, gets hit in the face by a firework. She somehow survives, and the worst she gets is just blinded, and not like in the way like, you know how like in Matrix, Neo has his eyes just completely fried. No, a little bit of scarring, and she's got the pale blues now. She's fine other than that, but somehow she's now paralyzed. Even though she got hit in the face. Or not even in the face. It just skid past her eye. So now she's apparently paralyzed, and the personality that she's had throughout this entire movie just completely goes 180, and now she acts like this weird robotic person in the chair. Just kind of like, ah yes, the future. Who knows what happens in the future for you girls? Because it hasn't been written yet. Like, it is bizarre. She looks more like the Madame Web from the comics there, but from where we were with her before she got blinded and where we are now, I don't know how she got that. You see the girls in their costumes, and oh yeah, remember the cool costumes from the trailer that kind of like, oh cool, they're doing some of the Spider Girls. They're in the film for like 2 minutes, filmed in a way that you can't see anything. So it's really weird. It's pretty much all I really have to say. There's no post-credit scene. In between post-production and release, they were like, we don't know how to salvage this. We're just going to release it, get a quick buck off it. We're not even going to have this set up or lead into anything. It feels like a wounded animal that just needs to be put out. All the actresses are trying to do their best with what they're given, but no, like, good job, honey, but no. I guess I've been kind of like a bit like harsh on this film, and I know that like there's a big weird controversy going around, at least on film, in the film community, about like online criticism and how critics should behave or treat film and filmmakers. There's the camp mostly led by Chris Stuckman, who I do respect. He's the reason why I'm doing this today. He's in the camp of like no longer wanting to do review movies that he thinks are bad, and instead wanting to celebrate film. And so when he talked about this movie, he was more talking about how like studios can sometimes come in and just ruin an entire project, which happens a lot. That's happened throughout the entire history of cinema. Like I do want this channel to be a place where we can have like a bit of like a safe space and talk about film and celebrate film in a really fun way. But I also think when you celebrate film, half the fun of it is talking about things that are bad. And that's fun. Like I honestly think you can make a really fun drinking game out of Madam Web. Every time that you can clearly tell that the bad guy is ADR'd and dubbed, take a drink. It's fun. Like that's kind of the part of the fun. I don't hate this film. I just didn't like it and I was really disappointed and I thought you could have done something interesting if you really tried. My criticisms are never towards like wanting to like put hate on the director or want them to never work again and put in director jail or these actresses to never work in anything again. That's not my point. My point is like I feel like criticism is very important in every process of art. It just depends on how you criticize things. If you come from a place of I love this and I want to make sure that this is really good, you will be upfront and honest about what you think. And that's what I try to do. I didn't like this film. I'm honest about it, but also not ruin the people's lives. Like you don't want someone like looking at the drawing that you drew and just going like, well, that's shit, that shit, that shit, and they don't explain why. You want someone that could be like, that's not that good. Or they could say that shit, but this is how you fix it. That's kind of my thoughts on everything. Because this film has just gotten this weird backlash in the film community. And I honestly don't think it's like that deserving of it. Like, it's just another bad Sony Spider-Man film in which they don't have Spider-Man in their films. I know we got two more of these things coming out this year. We got the Kraven the Hunter movie, and then we got that third Venom film, which I'm not looking forward to because, like, why? Yeah, cool. Make Kraven the Hunter an animal lover and Venom like the goofball comedy. Like, all right, fine, whatever. Like, you'll see reviews for them, but I won't be happy unless they're good. Unless they're good, because you never know. That's pretty much all I got to say for this film. Kind of a bit more of an animated review, I guess you could say. But yeah, I just didn't like this film. Don't go see it. Wait for it to come out on a streaming service. That way you don't directly have to pay for it. Make a drinking game out of it. You'll have a great time. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more from us, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what you guys thought of Madam Web. I can't imagine it being any different than my thoughts. But nonetheless, I think I still want to hear your opinion, so leave a comment down below. If you like my review and want to share it around, please share it around. And if you want to see more and you want to help support the channel, please subscribe to our Patreon for $5 a month. You get to hear our uncut audios. And we're also planning on doing some Patreon exclusives, especially in the month of April. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I also have an alternate review, funny for this, of this movie in which my friends recorded me and my direct reaction after the film and me losing my freaking mind. I'm not releasing it on YouTube because I think the audio is a little bit too hard to hear and my thoughts are very incoherent. So I wasn't really happy with it in the end. So I was like, I'll just make this a Patreon exclusive. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. And so yeah, bye.